Major Mohommed Ali Shah joining us live on the broadcast. Major Shah, thank you for joining us on NewsX as always. Live visuals on your screen, Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting the German Chancellor. The significance, in your words, of this meeting, sir, first of all.
Is the Russia-Ukraine war, there has to be a ceasefire between them. Otherwise, one can't just today, we got the news that Russia dropped 2 missiles in Poland, be it accidentally, be it unintentionally, or whatever. The damage has been done. Two Polish people have been killed in this accident, in this attack, as I would say. So most certainly, whenever whatever India had called for a diplomatic ceasefire yesterday, and right now the G20 summit is on, so we have to come together and give it all together a chance to actually make peace for them. So that is the significance, Meenakshi.
It's coming in the backdrop of the Russia-Ukraine war, and also, there were some unfortunate comments which had come from Germany's side as far as Kashmir is concerned. It's not a stated agenda, it's not fixed, but do you think that this could also come up in this meeting?
Yes, Meenakshi, the German foreign minister, she had given some uncalled statements when Pakistan's Bilawal Bhutto had gone there, in fact. So they were uncalled for statements, but that was, again, one should just take that with a pinch of salt at the moment, I would say. One should not dig too much into it, because Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, and Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, they are good friends, they are in very good terms, and India is friends with Germany. So when such a statement was issued by them, I don't think that represents the entire Germany talking in favor of India, in terms of India. So one should not take that too seriously, in fact. Overall, by and large, India is in very, very good terms with Germany, in fact.
Well, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And also, if you look at the communique which has come from the side of G20, at least the draft which is already available, very, very interesting. Would you say that the words, the tone and tenor, very, very similar to what Prime Minister Narendra Modi had to say? Exact lines of Narendra Modi added in the communique when the Prime Minister said, and I quote, that this is not an era of war. That's really the big message emanating out of this G20, isn't it, sir?
100%, Meenakshi, you really stole words out of our mouth. And what our Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said, since he is a very well-meaning person there and he wants peace. So yes, whatever the words have come out from Germany, it's exactly, they've echoed our sentiments. Totally, they'll be on the same page, and I'm glad to see. That's why I said, what earlier the foreign minister said, because of Pakistan influence for their own small little minor ulterior motives. One should not take that too seriously. One should take it with a pinch of salt. One should see how well we are in terms with Germany, and that is the take home from here.
No, we're touching upon both these issues. One, of course, the statement which has been made as far as Kashmir is concerned, and the other, it's very significant because, of course, Russia being a part of the NATO countries, we've had an escalation of tension in Poland. The meet itself is happening in the backdrop of the Russia-Ukraine war, so a mention of it absolutely important. But Major Mohommed Shah, as you were saying earlier, you think that those unfortunate statements, as far as Kashmir is concerned, is unlikely to have any bearing on the bilateral between the German Chancellor and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, isn't it?
Oh, well, Meenakshi, what the other nations talk about Kashmir, of their business. What Pakistan does and how it manages to influence other nations, none of their business at all. It's our own internal matter, and most certainly, as you are right, it will not have a bearing on the Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, and our Prime Minister Narendra Modi's relationship at all. In fact, that is something which I don't see, just because one person from Germany, it can be their foreign minister or someone, had said something about Kashmir, just because they're on a stand on Kashmir, just because they were under a bit of influence from Pakistan. That does not mean that Olaf Scholz, the Premier of Germany, would have the same opinion. I do not really agree to that, and I don't
mean to say that. No, I don't mean to say that, Major Shah. But the question really was: do you think there's a possibility of the Kashmir issue, or perhaps Germany's stance on the same being mentioned in the meet? We all know that there are certain stated agendas when it comes to, of course, such a bilateral. It's free-flowing between the top two leaders of a country, but then there is a lot of unsaid agenda. Do you think under that sort of head, these statements, which we are calling very unfortunate far as Kashmir is concerned, do you think they could at least find a mention?
No, Meenakshi, and I didn't misunderstand you. I knew you didn't mean that. And I do not think there was going to be any mention of Kashmir between the German Chancellor and our Prime Minister Narendra Modi at all. In fact, they will try to keep that aside for another day, perhaps, if at all the need arises. Right now, they will not bring it up.
Fair enough. Let's talk about Germany and China, and also UK and China. Major Shah, why don't you come in here, sir? In May 22, this year itself, we know how the IGC between India and Germany was held in Berlin. That meeting was not delayed. We know how Prime Minister Narendra Modi was welcomed with open arms. Similarly, we know what happened far as, India-UK relations are concerned, those 3,000 visa clearances. Clearly, a testament of India's growing stature, how India is making more and more friends world over, even in European countries who may not agree with our stance on Russia. But when it comes to China, the situation is absolutely grim. Tables have turned. Very obvious, China is left isolated and friendless, isn't it, sir?
Meenakshi, the thing is, today, as you rightly said, table have turned. Today, many nations, not just Germany, even US, a superpower like US, needs India much more than India needs US. Today, when India earlier used to look at to countries like Israel, Russia, America, for defense partnership to supply military equipment, today, India itself is supplying military equipment to countries like Philippines and various other countries. So, table has turned. America had imposed sanctions on India during the COVID-19 situation to import the raw material on vaccine. But the day India administered over 1 million vaccinations on one day, that very day, America opened up the sanctions and they gave a relaxation there. Now, you may call it sheer coincidence or whatever, but the very fact is, even say the example of Quad. We are a strategic partner of Quad and we are being neighbors of China. We are very, very important for all the other international countries. They look up to India with a lot of respect, with a lot of that we can solve their crisis. Today, why is it that India is being looked upon that, okay, India might come and do something where in bringing peace in the Russia-Ukraine war, which no other country has been able to have been successful so far. Turkey tried, Israel tried, but failed. India asked for a humanitarian corridor. India succeeded at least in a momentary ceasefire earlier. So India is a country which a lot of people would be taking seriously today, and the stature of Indians has become much, much larger. It's gone multiplied by 100 to that extent. So whatever India says in whichever global forum, it would be considered and taken very, very seriously, Meenakshi.
And one of the challenges really, Major Shah, if you could jump in here, would you agree would also be to bind the world together? India will have to take a leadership role and iron out differences ahead of course, its presidentship of the G20 next year. As of now, G20, as I said, divided. Many even saying what really is the significance and importance of G20. They have no powers like NATO. It's just an economic forum. At the max, they can give suggestions, nudge the parties involved, perhaps in, bigger geopolitical situations like the Russia-Ukraine war, to go on a path of peace and dialogue. But beyond that, there's nothing they can do. Many even saying it's an era of G0 and not G20 because every country is looking at its interest first.
Absolutely, Meenakshi, you're bang on there. And I'll give you a small example, like, when the Russia-Ukraine war is on right now, and even then, we continued our relationship with Russia at the same time as Ukraine. We continued buying cheap oil from Russia at the same time, despite the fact that the Western countries did not like it. America stopped us. America hinted at us, and America told us also directly, in fact, that they did not like it, but we would look at our interests first. Similarly, any country would look at their interests first. I'll give you a small analogy for everyone to understand. First, only when we are self-sustained from home, from within, from inside, can we stand tall in a society. Similarly, when we look at our interests first, and any country would do that. It's not just India, not just Russia or Ukraine or America or UK, every single country. And yes, and now when we have the presidency of the G20 two countries, so certainly, all the countries, they would be looking at India with, yes, India is becoming larger than life on the global map. And the image of India, earlier there was a time when people used to think, okay, India, people have this perception of India to be this hungry, poor country with only backward people now they are realizing, the international community is realizing slowly and gradually what India actually is, how advanced India is, and what India actually is going to represent in the global community. So most certainly, you are certainly right, Meenakshi. India is looking after its own interests. Similarly, other countries will also look after their own interests. But at the same time, but the first priority of which remains should be of every country should remain that how the war between Russia and Ukraine should end, because it will only escalate further into a very, very dangerous situation for all of us.